Welcome, everyone, to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips. Got Jeff Torrey sitting across from me. And today we're going to talk rookie wide receivers in auction drafts and what they've done over the last few years. So last week we did a running back episode of rookie running backs, compared what their prices were and how they actually performed during the season. And we were able to come up with, if it's a high-priced rookie running back, they're pretty good. Almost their hit rate is very high. And even that mid-tier, the hit rate's very high. So it seemed like it was good value. So I decided let's look at wide receivers. Let's see what we can figure out from there, what kind of trends we can find, and how it's going to benefit us. And I don't really feel like I found any trends, Jeff.
No, it was all over the place.
It is. So rookie receivers. I'm trying to find these trends that can help us out in the future. And honestly, it's not there for rookie receivers. And the good thing is they're all cheap, though. They're all relatively cheap. And for this year's draft specifically, they're very cheap. You're not going to spend much. That could vary. We mainly play in auction leagues that are keeper leagues. So these rookies will go for a little bit more. But in a redraft, you really don't. I don't think we'll go through these numbers, but I think already before we get there, in a redraft, I don't see the need to spend up for any rookie receiver at all. At all. A keeper league's different story because a lot of times they can be really good in a year too. But redraft, for 1 year, I don't see the need. So let's look. We can look back here. 2022. The highest price one last year was Drake London. He went higher than I thought. I think that was basing off the year before, which will be Jamar Chase. We'll get to in a minute. But Drake London went for about $6, and that's about the highest you get. He didn't live up to the $6 probably even, but 38th finish. Garrett Wilson and Olave were both $2. They got 21st and 23rd. So that's really good value actually for the $2. Mm-hmm. Pretty solid value. But again, they're not like, they weren't league winners. You couldn't use them every week. They had some flashes. They were good at times, but they didn't help you. Maybe they were back end. If you have like 3 receivers, they helped you win, but they're not really helping you win championships too much. After that, Treylon Burks was obviously not worth it. Christian Watson had a good stretch. He could help. He's the one who actually probably helped you.
Yeah, definitely.
If you were trying to win there at the last second. He ended up with 25th finish after doing nothing for half a year.
Yeah, the second half of the year, he really came along. Yep. And if you were listening to us, you would have drafted him.
Sky Moore didn't do anything. And George Pickens was okay.
Solid. Yeah, 31.
Fine. That was 2022. 2021 had Jamar Chase go for $6. He finished 3rd. So yes, if you got him at that price, well worth it. You did awesome. He probably helped win some leagues. That's a great pick.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But after that, Devontae Smith was only going for like $1 less, and he finished 30th. Again, that's fine. It's not, again, didn't hurt you. That doesn't help you, though, for the price. Waddle was a $3 player who finished 21st. So, yeah, value's okay. But again, not some, he didn't change anything. And after that, a bunch of guys that really didn't do much, honestly. Elijah Moore had a week or two. Rashad Bateman, Kadarius Toney had a week? He had a week. So, not much else there. 2020, we had Justin Jefferson going for $1. If you listen to us again for this one, Jeff was a huge Jefferson guy.
Yep.
Called him all preseason, and he finishes 6th. So if you got Justin Jefferson, that was absolutely worth it. 100%. You did awesome. But again, even the Justin Jefferson pick, Jeff, he wasn't the highest. CeeDee Lamb went for more money, and it was just you liked him. It wasn't like we didn't know for sure.
No, I didn't know. No, It was the best situation, and
yeah.
we'll get to that once we get, like, there are a few things that we can talk about as far as, like, who are you predicting? Mm-hmm. What are you looking for? And they're really basic things for the most part, but we can get to it in a moment here.
Even 2020, that was a pretty good year for you if I look back at it. You were a Justin Jefferson guy. You were also a Claypool guy.
Yep.
For that year. Claypool's probably fallen off a little bit now, but for that year, $1 and finished 14th. Absolutely worth it. CeeDee Lamb finished 20th with $2. T. Higgins finished 28th with $1. Brandon Ayuk finished 33rd with $1. So there was actually, again, that's okay value. I mean, obviously Jefferson was something that could change the game for you. The other guys were okay. They're okay.
And if you're getting a guy like CeeDee Lamb, and if you really are getting him for $2, that's what he is going, like, that was his price, but doesn't mean that is what he went for in the league, right? So keep that in perspective, because those guys did get a little, they're young. You're trying to hit the next one. Like, everyone's chasing the dragon because we'll eventually get down to him. But, we're talking about Odell. We're talking about Mike Evans, the guys that really hit the first.
Well, even now, today, you're chasing Chase and Jefferson.
Jefferson, yeah.
Yeah. So 2019, Deontay Johnson, DK Metcalf was the highest price at 2. He finished 30th, and clearly had flashes at times. You knew he was going to be good, but he wasn't something you could really rely on for fantasy. Terry McLaurin finished 24th. Debo finished 26th, but the leader for that year was A.J. Brown at 10. But honestly, preseason, you wouldn't that kind of a dart throw, a random one. You wouldn't necessarily say if you liked him, great. He wasn't really on our radar very much that year.
And I'll be honest, Ole Miss always puts out pretty good wide receivers, but he was going into a situation where they were in a run-heavy offense, and we didn't think that so he was going to be the renaissance of the QB in Tennessee.
If you got him, great. It worked out. But again, it wasn't nothing that crazy. 2018 really wasn't much. Ridley was the best. He finished 18th. DJ Moore was the highest price at 2, and he finished 38th. Again, DJ Moore, you saw the flashes, but he wasn't getting touchdowns. There wasn't much that year. There just wasn't much for you.
No.
2017, again, not a lot. The highest priced guy that year was Corey Davis and Zay Jones. I found because remember there was a little Zay Jones hype from all those catches he had in college. But the
John Ross, do you remember that guy?
God, man.
Oh, that was a bummer.
Well, that's the year where John Ross, Mike Williams, and Corey Davis were all like top 10 picks.
Yeah,
and they finished 101, 224, and 120, 146. So you had 3 rookie receivers that were top 10 draft picks, and none of them finished in the top 100. So if you look at that, you did have 2 rookies that finished okay, with Juju at 18 and Cooper Kupp at 27. But the 3 top 10 picks finished beyond the top 100.
And that's why it becomes so difficult to figure out who's going to be doing this, because we can talk about if they're in the first round drafted, they're a guaranteed thing. They're not.
Not at all at wide receiver. 2016, you had Michael Thomas. He finished 9th. He had a good year. But
really good. Yeah.
I would say even preseason, it wasn't like we weren't all on Mike Thomas. Thomas.
We didn't know.
Yep. Yeah. Mari Cooper in 2015 was cheap and finished 21st. Okay. 2014 is where I think before that, I don't think people spent on rookie receivers. 2014, and really it was Odell Beckham. And it was after he came back from injury. So he missed 5 games that year. He had the hamstring injury, I believe it was.
And still finished.
Still finished 7th. Yeah. And he won so many leagues that year. And Mike Evans had a really good end of the season too and finished 13th. I don't have the numbers yet, but I remember even in our league, he was dropped early on in the year. Yeah. He wasn't doing anything. He ends up 13th. So Beckham and Evans kind of set that tone for rookie receivers for a while. This is what you're going to get. But if you look back, 2014, you had Beckham, who's a league winner. 2016, Michael Thomas probably helped you win some leagues.
Yeah, top 10 for a buck. Yeah.
But then after that, it's Jefferson and Chase. So out of 9 seasons, maybe 4 guys. I mean, A.J. Brown was the top 10, but I don't feel like he was really winning any leagues. You might have 3 or 4 guys that really changed your teams and helped you win leagues.
I mean, they definitely filled out rosters. I don't want to get it off because they're very all these guys went for incredibly cheap. I mean, it is crazy to think Jamar Chase, because he has so much hype around him, he was the highest ranked priced wide receiver in all of these, and that was at $6. That is not a crazy amount to spend on anyone, but usually when you get to this spot, someone loves him a little more.
You'd go for a couple more dollars for sure.
But that, and then Drake London last year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but that just shows how do you know? I will say this. A lot of these guys did okay, even the ones that finished in the 20s, 30s. They definitely showed some promise. Probably had some good weeks. So I don't mind throwing a guy or 2 on the bench. I really don't. This year, there's probably not a lot of options. It's Addison, it's Smith Najigba, and it's
Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers.
So there's a couple guys. I don't think I throw a lot of them on the bench though.
I don't. Yeah, I do think
I like Addison. Maybe
I like.
Until he went 140 miles an hour.
I like his situation the best. If I was going to get one guy this year, but then again, it was the same situation, and the reason why I like Justin Jefferson in the first place, going into a place where you're going to be the automatic number 2 wide receiver on a friendly offense with a solid quarterback. The only difference would be Hawkinson could be that number 2 guy if you believe in that. I don't really believe in that, so I think Addison is the best one there. We'll find out about Smith.
Yeah, I would. This is how I would probably do it. In a redraft league, I don't put more than one of those guys on my bench because chances are you don't get somebody that's going to change much for you. Maybe get 1 in a keeper league. An auction keeper, maybe I throw 2 because they do have. I think they're better in the year 2. That's when you really start to see, this guy did really well. Now he's going to be a star. It happens a lot. Garrett Wilson's a good example of that. He only finished in Olave too. Both of those guys didn't finish in the top 20, but we're all expecting them this year to be up there.
Yeah, and I mean Drake London too.
Yeah. So I would say
Christian Watson, there's a lot of guys that should be a lot better.
You see the flashes and then see, okay, year 2 is where you're getting. So it's a keeper league. I understand spending maybe a couple more dollars to get one of them, and you get maybe 2 of them on your bench. That I think there's some value in that. But maybe don't expect them to be world changers in year 1. There might be, because there's been a few of them over the years, but it's not like the running back where you could see, you just know, Bijan's going to be the guy. You know it's going to work unless he gets hurt. It could be out of Addison, Smith-Njigba, Johnston, Flowers. If you told me any of those guys did it, okay, it could happen. I don't know who it's going to be. And there could be somebody below that we're not even thinking of right now.
There could be. And the big one, like the thing that all of the wide receivers that broke out immediately, or even if we're talking about that can be a very solid contributor to your team. If you're going to be in the top 30 and more than likely like the top 20, that is what you're probably shooting for. That would be a huge win, right? If you get someone like Garrett Wilson and they can play as your flex or wide receiver 3, depending on what your roster makeup is, that is a huge win.
Yep.
You get a solid contributor that has upside that you get for incredibly cheap at the end of the draft, right? That is a huge win.
Yep.
In saying that, we're talking like, okay, the people that were able to do that, and we'll look throughout it, but even Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Christian Watson, George Pickens. I can't even say George Pickens really, but those guys, they had guaranteed playing time in front of them, and you were going to be in the starting rotation.
Yep.
Olave a little different; he was going to be in the slot and whatnot. And then injuries can occur. But if you don't know that they're automatically going to get playing time, it is very difficult. Like even Christian Watson, I loved him. I thought he had all of the tools, and you're with a good quarterback. And there was no one else there. So even though he wasn't polished, you're going to get playing time. You'll figure it out. I don't know, other than Jordan Addison, and once again, that's why I'm saying this.
Because he's going to be number 2. The other guy's going to be 3.
Yeah, exactly. Jackson Smith-Njigba could be a good one because they could use him as the number 3, and they could use him a lot. But right now, you still have to overcome both Lockett and Deacon Metcalf. And last time I checked, neither of those guys are going to give away any sort of receptions. And then you go to Quentin Johnson, who's on the Chargers. Once again, he could get playing time, but they have some talent there, even though I think that one might be a little more like the injury risk is real for the other guys that they have there at the Chargers.
So definitely jump up there.
And then you're talking about Zay Flowers, which I like all these guys as far as like I think they're pretty decent talent, but you're going to Baltimore where you're going to have to
potential
compete.
there too, but
it's muddy waters, and they're not exactly wide receiver friendly.
There's definitely a chance there, but the number 1 receiver on that team is actually Mark Andrews, and then you have Rashad Bateman and you just signed Odell.
Yeah.
So while I could see the scenario where Zay Flowers is the number 1 receiver, I could absolutely see that. I mean, number 1 actual receiver probably still behind Andrews. You can also see the scenario where Bateman takes a step up and Beckham's healthy.
Yeah.
And then
who was the de facto number 1 wide receiver there was Hollywood Brown for many years.
Yeah,
and even him, he had a hard time being consistent. I mean, and he had a lot more tools than Flowers does.
Yep.
Currently, I'm sure he has a lot of ability. And then you go further than that. So the hard part is like, even when they land in a very great position, we've seen first round guys fail. We've seen, some guys that need injuries to occur, and you can't possibly know that is going to happen. We've also seen guys that just didn't get the hype in college come into a place and then halfway through the year kind of take over a position, but you can't bank on that. Why would you draft for that? So in the best of situations, you can call and guess, and that's why you don't overpay for rookies.
Yep.
And even worse, I think this year is a relatively weak wide receiver crew, and I don't think any of them, besides for Jordan Addison, really fell in a very friendly situation.
No. So one guy I didn't throw up from the other year was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Had a pretty good rookie year, but he was completely off the radar. So that wasn't even, he was way down. Like,
he was going to the Lions, which everyone assumed was.
And he finished about 23rd or something. But so those guys exist. So we'll throw a guy or two on the bench, no problem. But don't think it's going to be. Don't go out of your way for him.
Yeah, and the only thing I will say about Smith-Njigba is he does fit more of the role of an Olave or Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is interesting, right? Because you have much more of a number 3 that is going to be used in a strategic way in the slot. That could be him. And so maybe him and Addison have a little more upside than the rest of them.
Yep.
But I hate to be the hater about Seattle, but I still can't do it.
But all right, there we go. There's rookie receivers for you. So throw one on your bench, but don't expect much at this point. Could happen. But all right, that'll do it for today. Talk to you guys next time.